fun Halloween weekend. Me and my daughter, we went to Knott's Berry Farm, Knott's Scary Farm. Had a really good time. Super crowded, and she had a really amazing Halloween. So we're back at it, back to work today. I want to talk a little bit about culture, cult. How human beings really move like a cult with culture. You can't spell culture without cult. All right, and when you're operating from the dark side of life as a human being, the carnal minded side of life, you tend to be very prejudiced towards people who don't look like you, who don't think like you, who don't shop like you, who don't eat like you, right? We tend to want to sideline people who are not a part of the group, right? And this is what I'm noticing in our country. It's just if you're not a part of the cult, you're not a part of the group, you don't belong. So it says here a cult is not only a religious group going astray, it is any collective of humans who have built their identity on shared fear, shared ego, and shared rules that one must obey in order to belong, right? In order for you to belong, a part of this community, a part of this racial group, you have to treat groups who are against us or who don't look like us or who don't think like us or whose lifestyles are different than us, badly. You can't approve of that. You have to be really, really, you know, hard on them, right? If we see you siding with these other groups, you know, then you get put out. This isn't only in the white community, right? Black folks do this too, where some black women, right? If they see you with a white girl, you know, or even just a black collective, not all, I hate to broad stroke, but if you're married to a person that's not black and then you try to be a civil rights leader and you try to lead the black community out of oppression, but your girl is Chinese, your wife is Chinese, or your wife is white, they'll discredit you, right? And the same thing in the white community, right? We don't want our daughters dating these niggas, right? You bring a nigger home, you get ostracized from the family. Human beings are some very evil people. Human beings are evil as a motherfucker. All right, let's just be honest. And it says something about this in the Bible, how the heart of man is wicked and just desperately wicked. Who can know it, right? Desperately wicked, man. Hey, what's up, Akaiwa, man? Good to see you, man. It says a cult is not only a religious group gone astray, it is any collective of humans who have built their identity on shared fear, shared ego, and shared rules that one must obey in order to belong. Yeah, bro, I went ahead and got him in. Got him in on Friday. I got to keep him in for like a month. My hairline is pretty much non-existent at this point anyway, so I had to say, fuck it, man. Might as well just let my hair grow out. The barbers want like $70 a haircut out here in Newport Beach. I'm like, motherfucker, before I pay $70 a week for a haircut, I'll grow my hair out longer than Cher, man. I'm not spending all that money for no damn haircut. Happy birthday, Jessica. Hey, what's up, Lee? What's good? Hope you have a blessed birthday today. What's going on, Lee? Good to see you, man. Hope you guys had a good weekend, good Halloween weekend. This weekend went by so fast, man. It flew by. We back to work, man. Back at it. Hope you guys having a blessed day, having a blessed week. Hope your week goes smoothly. Hope you're able to, have a less stressful week this week. You know what I'm saying? Today I'm talking about human culture and how sometimes humans can operate like a cult, right? With culture, right? It doesn't even have to be race. It could be military culture, right? We're very strong in military culture where it's like, oh, those civilians, those damn civilians, they're so crazy. Mind you, we were civilians, right? But, as soon as we get into groups where we have these shared sort of like unspoken rules, we could be very hard on outsiders, So it says here the word cult comes from cultus, meaning to worship. So the question is not whether humans are a part of a cult, but what we worship. When human beings operate from the carnal, flesh-based, ego-driven side of their nature, they form identities around the tribe, around appearances, power, and control, instead of around truth, spirit, and the eternal. And a lot of people know this, right? A lot of these sort of like figures in social media, these really public figures, it doesn't matter who it is, especially if they're part of a dominant group, they know they have the rest of the group who looks like them and who thinks like them on their side, right? It's unspoken. I know this, right? For example, American Eagle, with all this controversy around, she has good genes, which I thought was really petty, but I could see why people would be upset. But they know they have the dominant group in society. The country's majority white. All right. These people are not slow. They know that most people are going to support it. They don't have an issue with it. They're not going to bat an eye at it, right? So they're going to be proud. Oh, yeah, we said what we said. Shit, you know. So that's just how it is, man. And you see it with black folks too, man. Asians, Hispanics, people feel like when they have the dominant group on their side, they think they could do whatever the fuck they want to do, right? They don't have any sort of like give a damn about what you think, what I think. Hey, I got my people backing me, right? I don't give a fuck about you. Right, that coat, right? That coat, that's what makes a lot of human nature so evil on the carnal side, right? This is on the dark side of human nature. It says this is why cult patterns show up in politics, corporations, families, and racial identity groups. Not because people are consciously evil, but because the flesh wants to belong and wants belonging more than truth. Culture is the offspring of cult. Culture tells us who is valuable, who is disposable, who is normal, and who is foreign. When culture is ruled by the flesh, it becomes an idol, a set of unwritten commandments that pressures everyone to perform, conform, obey, or be exiled. Culture says fit in, but the kingdom says stand apart. Culture says be accepted by the group, but Christ says follow me. And very few are strong enough to choose Christ when the crowd is applauding the opposite direction. All right. This is where race enters the picture. Race constructed, categorized, classified, labeled becomes a tool to sort human beings into cult tiers. The dominant culture determines who is default, who is neutral, who is pure, and who is other. Racism functions as a cult identity system. You belong if you look like us, speak like us, if you vote like us, right? Make us comfortable and obey the myth we created about ourselves. Anyone who does not conform becomes a threat to the cult's order and is therefore diagnosed, criminalized, excluded, or silenced. When the carnal mind runs culture, culture becomes a false religion. It demands worship, worship of power, whiteness, wealth, nationalism, political identity, social dominance, or historical superiority myths. Donald Trump isn't the only issue, all right? There's a lot of fucking Donald Trumps in America. You think he's the only rich guy who flexes his power, gives a damn about what the public thinks? Fuck no. There's so many corporations that are run by billionaires, trillionaires. Look at Elon Musk. There's so many of them. At this little party that he had when food stamps were getting cut short, there was a whole fucking galleria of Trumps in there. All right. He's not the only person that thinks this way and that functions this way. And I don't hate Donald Trump, but he's a symbol, all right, of us. He's a symptom, right, of a bigger system that's at play. And he knows he has a collective group of like-minded individuals, all right. And it's not just skin deep, okay. He knows he has the dominant group who think like him and who operate like him and who function like him that has his back. That's his battery pack. So hell yeah, he's gonna go out there and he's not gonna give a damn about what you think. I got fucking hundreds of thousands of supporters, man. And all these motherfuckers are rich. Fuck, I gotta care about you guys, right? That's the dark side of code and that carnal mindedness where a lot of these figureheads, they get their fuel and their power. They're like fucking Goku. Fucking, from people who think like them. So even if you remove Donald Trump, you still got little baby Trumps in America that think and operate just like him. All right. So he's a symptom of a bigger issue, a very bigger issue. So it says here, I'm gonna say this again: when the carnal mind runs culture, culture becomes a false religion. It demands worship, worship of power, whiteness. It could be blackness, right? It could be Asianness, Mexicanness, Hispanicness, Latinoist, right? It could be all kind of different, racial groups. All right. You even see this in the Hispanic community when I was in San Diego. If you don't speak Spanish, a lot of these Hispanics are not fucking with you. All right. It ain't just white people. Hispanics are good for this too. Latinos, they're giving you the side eye. They're looking at you because you're not a part of the group. Who the fuck are you? Right. You go down to Mexico and you go to the wrong part of Mexico. You'd be lucky if you fucking make it back alive. All right. So this isn't just a white thing. All right. This is a human thing. Black culture, African culture. You go to fucking Africa, you can get kidnapped. Shit, So it's just human nature. Okay. The dark side of human nature, this cult like sort of impulse to just, exclude and exterminate anyone or anybody who threatens our identity or this social order. Okay. So this is a very serious thing, man. It's a very serious thing. And that's the challenge, I believe, for Christians, that is so difficult, because as a Christian being, you're born into a human body that has a flesh, that has a color, that has a race, that has an identity in terms of the world's definition. So as a Christian, you have to obey and activate your faith, where you have to go against the code. All right. That's why a lot of Christians really put themselves at risk. There's a risk with being a culture with being a Christian in today's world, because you essentially are opting out, right? If you're true to the word of this sort of like social order of how things work. All right. These unspoken, unwritten rules. The shit's magical, right? And a lot of Christians try to blend the both of them, where they're like, no, Randy, I'm not going to really give up my race. I'm not going to give up my culture, but I'm going to still be a Christian too. This is just, and that's why a lot of those churches don't really blossom. They don't really grow, right? And members can tell, new people can tell when they go into the church and you're like, you're the all white church, you're the all black church, you're the all Asian church, you're the all Hispanic church. And they can tell when you're not really culturally competent, and you're not sort of like shedding this cult extremism. People can tell. Human beings are very smart. They can pick up on it. Motherfuckers are not stupid. This is 2025. So people can tell when it's just not, hey, what's up, Lee? They're doing good. Hey, what's up, Azor? The kids are doing good. They're doing really good. She's in daycare. I like that name, Azor. That's a beautiful name, Azor. I love your name, Azor. Damn, I might steal that for one of my babies. That's a beautiful name, Azor. So it says here, it is a religion with rituals. You're welcome. Neighborhood zoning, hiring practices, media portrayal, educational curriculum, policy standards, or policing standards, beauty standards. And the tragedy is this: people confuse belonging to the code of culture with belonging to God. All right. But the Bible says plainly, to be carnally minded is death. To be spiritually minded is life and peace. Romans 8:6. The coat is loud, proud, and blind. The spirit is quiet, eternal, and unshakable. So I have some points here um, of coat. 15 points. I thought there was some degree of cultural freedom that we are allowed, though. So St. Paul wrote in Corinthian letters. Yeah, I mean, as long as what you're doing is biblical. I mean, some people can look at Christianity like a cult, right? It's not supposed to function like that. I'm looking at cult in terms of like the dark side, like the carnal minded side, where it's like, this is our group. These are our unspoken, unwritten rules. You know, if you don't obey these rules, you don't belong. And that's not how Christianity is supposed to operate, because there were a lot of people who weren't saved and who were not religious that Jesus Christ opened up the door for when he gave his life, right? It wasn't like Jesus came down here for Christians, right? If you already had of the mindset that you were saved and you did no wrong, then what would be the purpose of Jesus Christ coming here, right? He opened up the door for people who felt like they didn't belong, right? For the sinners, right? It says, while we were still yet sinners, Christ loved us, all right? So to the religious, they would have looked at sinners like, you guys don't belong. You're sinners. You're not living the right life. But Christ, he opened up the door. He challenged a lot of that. So it's not to say that having a group or being a part of a community is a bad thing. It's just when it becomes extremist, and it's like, if you don't, you know, where there's no grace or compassion, for people who may not, you know, obey the rules of the code. Um, what's about better? So it says the cult of normal. Dominant culture defines itself as normal and everyone else as different, exotic, ethnic, or minority. This is the first rule of cult power. Rename yourself the standard. When a group believes that they are the baseline for humanity, they no longer have to justify their power. They simply call it order. This is how racial hierarchy is disguised as common sense, right? The kingdom says no one is normal. All are made in God's image and all fall short and all need grace, right? So if I can establish my culture or my group as the baseline of normal or normalcy, and this is what normal is supposed to look like, then I don't really have to say much. So this is using the example of whiteness. Historically, whiteness was not about skin color. It was about political membership. Italians, Irish, and Jews had to be initiated into it over time. Whiteness acts like a passport to power. a membership badge to an invisible club where resources, opportunities, and social assumptions flow naturally. That's not biology, that's quote engineering, spiritual contrast. This is the how it goes against the word. God does not build nations based on skin color, but on faith, obedience, and righteousness. So the code of property and land, the dominant culture treats land ownership as a moral worth. You own land equals a responsible citizen. If you rent, that means you're a lower class citizen. Homeless, that means you're a moral failure. This is reinforced through real estate laws, zoning, discriminatory lending, and neighborhood policing. The code guards the gates to neighborhoods like a temple guards its idols. All right, but this is the spiritual contrast. Scripture declares the earth is the Lord's, not banks, governments, or homeowner associations. And this is to the point now, and I think it's going to get worse, where some communities, especially like really affluent neighborhoods and communities, it's at the point where if you don't even look like you belong, you're going to sort of get treated like an outsider, right? We're in this community. It's a, very, very prosperous, wealthy community. And you don't hardly see any black people out here. I don't think I've seen any. And, when I'm out walking around and different things like that, going to my stepdaughter's um, parent events at the elementary school and different things like that, I've had white women, oh, what are you doing here? Oh, what are you? Oh, you're supposed to be just saying just smart ass shit, just being Karens. And, if I show out and if I say something back, then it's going to be like, oh, this black guy versus this white woman, right? So I have to be very careful. It was like during the summer program at the YMCA, I was taking my stepdaughter there and I already didn't want to go to the motherfucker because I just hate standing out, and I'm just like, fuck it. And not even a month into the program, this white lady, I don't even know who the fuck she was. Oh, who are you? I'm like, what? It's like, and it's not just white folks. Black people do this shit too. Because when I was in Georgia, they do this too, where some women, they just feel like they got a free pass to say whatever the fuck they want to say. I don't know who created this rule in the women community where we could say what we want to say, do what we want to do to black guys, and who gives a fuck. At least with some guys, not all men, but at least with some men, there's a little bit more modesty where it's kind of like, all right, I don't know this dude, whatever. Some women, man, they'll just say whatever the fuck they want to say whenever they want to say it. So it's like, it's not just the white girls, but for this example, this white woman was like going off of me, like, oh, like she knew me. She was like, oh, you're back here. Oh, you're back. Oh, you're here. You know, um, she's like, oh, you're here. What are you doing here? Oh, what are you doing here? Oh, you don't. I'm just like, man, what the fuck? So this cult mindset, right? Some of these communities are so used to people that think like them, that look like them, being there for so long. Even black folks, it's like, what the fuck are you doing here, right? So patriotism becomes a religion when loyalty to the nation is valued more than loyalty to truth. A nation becomes a god when people defend it, even when it is unjust. Politics becomes church. The flag becomes the cross. Soldiers replace preachers, and war becomes ministry. All right. Schools reward compliance, not wisdom. Academia becomes a priesthood of the credentialed who defend the code with language ordinary people are not qualified to challenge. All right. Sometimes racism can hide behind intellectual standards. And it's so interesting because in the scripture it says God chooses the foolish things of this world to shame the wise. Is more recently negative. I think the Heaven's Gates were also Christian. The branch division was, yeah, man, you're talking about better. Beauty standards are built around the dominant culture's features, body types, and hair textures. Everyone else is taught to fix, adjust, or tame themselves to match the cult aesthetic. This is not beauty, it is colonization of identity. Media chooses who gets to be a hero and who becomes a criminal. The cult of media constructs mythologies. This group is dangerous. This group is innocent. This group is wise. This group is emotional. These storylines are sermons in disguise. These storylines are sermons in disguise. That's why I don't like the direction the movie and the film industry is going. there used to be great movies back in the day. You guys remember back in the day where the movies used to be a lot more organic, more reflective of what was going on in today's world. It just felt, you felt better. Now when you watch a movie, it just kind of feels like there's like a hidden agenda, like, this is how, white people are, and you guys need to be like us, because look how soft and how loving we are, and these Negroes, these criminals, you see how wild they are. It just feels like a scripted sort of like they're just like force feeding you, you know, what their interpretation, these movie directors of, certain cultural narratives are. It's like they're force feeding it, and it's just the movie industry just sucks, man. Even with scary movies, like scary movies used to be something everybody can watch. It didn't matter what your race, your culture was. Now it's just like they have on, it's like a soap opera. It's like these scary movies become like a drama where it's like, dude, I didn't come here to see all this extra shit. I just want to see some horror, and it's like they just add so much propaganda, to these movies now. The code of policing, law enforcement in a code is not about justice. It is about maintaining hierarchy. When different races are policed differently, the code is not protecting citizens, it is protecting the myth of superiority. All right. Employers choose who is professional, who is a good cultural fit, whose voice matters, and whose identity must shrink to survive. Work becomes worship. Approval becomes salvation. The boss becomes the high priest, right? And a lot of these jobs, these work cultures, right? The cult of science, cult survival depends on silence, the cult of silence. People are pressured not to make it about race, to let things go, to not be divisive. Silence is demanded to protect the comfort of the majority. All right. The cult of victim blaming. Oppressed people are told their suffering is their fault. If you worked harder, if you acted differently, this shifts responsibility from oppression to the oppressed. It is psychological warfare disguised as wisdom. All right. The code of historical amnesia. The dominant culture remembers its victories and forgets its crimes. Textbooks become edited mythologies. Holiday become propaganda. Memory becomes obedience. So that's all. How many more? I think I have a few more. The code of respectability. Marginalized people are told to behave better, to earn dignity. But dignity is not earned, it is inherent. Respectability politics is just a polite face on a violent cult rule. Be like us or be rejected. The code of economic gatekeeping. Banks, credit scores, wealth networks, corporate leadership all funnel power to one group while calling it merit. This is a strategic power hoarding, not coincidence. And the last one, the code of dehumanization. Once a group has been labeled other, the cult can justify anything: imprisonment, violence, surveillance, exploitation. Dehumanization is the final sacrament of a dying empire. So yeah, it's not saying, being a part of the community or being a part of a community or having unity amongst yourself with like-minded people is a bad thing inherently. Quote is, I'm coming from the perspective of really extremists. If you don't sort of like obey or submit to the order of how we think or how we do things, there's going to be punishable consequences, right? In terms of ruining your reputation, right? Exploitation, right? Criminalizing you, dehumanizing you, right? This is more so like the dark side of code. It's nothing wrong with being a part of a group, being a part of a community, being a part of a team, all right? Especially if you treat people who are not a part of your team and your group with grace, with compassion, based off of the biblical standard, right? This is just the pattern of the world, right? Where if you're not obeying and submitting and you're not obedient to these unwritten, unspoken rules, you know, you're not going to get these opportunities that the people that are a part of the group get. Okay, you're going to find yourself struggling, right? And you might look like someone that's a part of the group, right? You see this a lot with white people where, a lot of white people are not buying into the racism shit. They're just like done with it, all right? And since they're not obeying, since they're not submitting and being obedient to what the dominant group says, this is what you need to be qualified or eligible to gain privileges, right? They're suffering, right? And I would think in some ways it could be hard, just as hard for them as black folks, because psychologically they know they could have the privilege, they know they could have all these different things, but they willingly sacrifice it. It's like when you're black, it's kind of like, it's expected for you to kind of be an outsider because you're fucking black, right? But Sometimes you got to step out of your shoes as a black man and just think broader. Like, think about the white person who, and this is not me diminishing the black struggle and saying like, oh, black people should be thankful. No, nothing like that. Two truths can coexist. It's just shit. Think about the white person who has the skin of privilege and the benefits, and they might have grew up in an affluent family, but they're just opting out of the shit, right? And they lose everything, but psychologically they know they're eligible, but they're like, no, I'm gonna opt out of that, right? So the cult of humanity. And I just thought that was interesting to talk about. Hope you guys are having a blessed day. It says it's not cult you want to say a cult. Do you know what cult means? Yes, I have the definition right here. So it says here the word cult comes from the word cultus, meaning to worship. All right. It comes from the root word cultus, cultus, meaning to worship. All right. So this is still aligned with the point. But look up words before you use it. He doesn't know what cult. I did look it up, man. I got the definition right here. The word cult comes from cultus, meaning to worship. Got it right here, bruh. So it says a cult is a group of people with unusual beliefs and extreme devotion to a leader or an idea characterized by social control and isolation. Now, the occult refers to secret or hidden knowledge, beliefs, and practices such as magic, astrology, or alchemy. So, occult is more about secret knowledge, all right? So, that's not the direction of this video. This is more about cult, all right? Unusual beliefs and extreme devotion to a leader or idea, all right? That's where I was going. Yeah, occult is right here. Occult definition refers to hidden knowledge and practices that are often supernatural or mystical in nature, involve secret or arcane knowledge, often related to magic, divination, alchemy, or spiritualism. Practices aim to harness hidden powers or gain knowledge not accessible through conventional means. So that's going more down a different lane. This is cult, a group with a social structure often centered on a single leader, with extreme devotion and control over its members. Key characteristics: absolute loyalty to a leader, isolation from friends, family, and society, discouragement of critical thinking or questioning, control over members' lives, and separation from their former identity. So I was right, man. I was right. Well, I appreciate you chiming in and showing up. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. All right, you guys have a blessed one. Peace.